Welcome, everyone. This is the Mama Rita Money Show. Well, it's time to feel good about money with Mama Rita. And what we'll be doing is we'll be starting with our show promo, and then we'll get started with our exciting guest. All right. Join you in just a minute. Welcome back, everyone. I am so super excited that you are here this evening with me. I couldn't be more content and happy to have conversations around money with a more special guest than Lisa Dion, and I can't wait for you to meet her. I wanted to talk a little bit about courageous conversations in times of crisis. I think one of the best things that I'm seeing people do right now is starting to have conversations or reaching out. And one of the best things that we can start to do are a couple things. I think being empathetic to another person is super important right now because it's hard to imagine putting ourselves in the shoes of what others might be going through. I was having a discussion early this morning about when you're greeting someone and you're just like, oh, Happy New Year. This is super amazing. I hope everything's amazing and great. Only to find out that that friend lost a couple of parents due to COVID or lost their job. So I think we're really getting an opportunity about learning how to be mindful and how to listen and maybe just be more aware of how we can show up in an empathetic fashion. I'm going to say I found myself in these shoes and just making sure that I say, you know what, I hope you're healthy. I hope your family's healthy. I hope you're doing well. I wish you abundant blessings. And really, it's about the words around what we're saying right now, because easily right now we are seeing, in the news and around the world, people are getting triggered to do things and to do the unimaginable. And I'm going to say, even seeing people who may not typically be that way, where they are triggered easy, but then all of a sudden, with everything that's gone on for, we're going to be nearing a year in March of, being in, I want to call it captivity because that's what it feels like. But it's really for some people, it is that. It's seclusion. They're secluded. They don't have people to surround themselves at. And it's creating different emotions. And if we don't know what to do with them, or we don't have mindful conversations with one another, then we're in for catastrophes. And so today, I couldn't think of a better guest to start the new year off with all that's going on in the world. I know that just one, I put two fingers up because it deserves a double, one of her tips has been so amazingly, literally, for me, life-changing. And I'm going to just briefly share, because the other day I woke up and I thought to myself, you know what? I'm just not feeling like my normal happy self. And that's usually my disposition. And I wrote my gratitudes, started journaling. I've been on a course with mentoring. I'm writing I am statements. I am confident. I am strong. I am beautiful. I am bold. And I do believe all those things about myself because it took a lot of self-development to get myself there. but I wasn't feeling it. I just didn't feel like I know I'm that, but so what? So what's next? What's next in the day? And then I just did this one tip. And so I'm going to leave you hanging for just a moment so that I can introduce my wonderful guest and have her share a little bit about what she does. And we'll get to that amazing tip. And so I'd like to welcome in Lisa Dion. Hi, Lisa.
Hello, hello,
Oh
hello.
my God, I'm so excited. I can't even tell you how excited I am to have you here tonight. Um, just getting to experience some of your teachings through mentoring has been phenomenal. And I want to share a little bit more about you while people can see you. So, and they can put a face to the super amazing you are. Lisa's a teacher. She's an entrepreneur. She's an author. She's a coach. She's a mom. I think a lot of us are a lot of things to a lot of people. So I'm going to say Lisa's not special, but she is super, but she is super amazing in special ways, right? I just want to say like I couldn't be talking to a more grounded person who makes me feel comfortable. I'm going to say an ordinary person doing extraordinary things in the world. And that's what makes her, actually, it does make you special. But also, I just want to point out to people is that you're just a regular gal, right? At the end of the day, you're a mom. You're a person that helps other people. You're a coach. A lot of moms are coaches too. They just don't realize it. Entrepreneur, business owner, teachers. And that's filling a lot of shoes, especially today. And I know in the past, Lisa has been awarded because of her, I'm going to say, creative, unique mind around play therapy, which I love that for professional training, play therapy and education. And she got an award of excellence. Well, those words for me were super connective because I thought, what if I could play my way through getting better, right? What if I could play my way? And even your tip, I think about it. I'll let you know what my vision is when I go through it, when we start to talk about that. Because really, I do envision myself as a child when that trigger happens. And I'll tell you what the first memory is. And I bet you it's a lot of people's young memories. And I love connecting to young memories because I am that girl. I was that girl. I still am that girl. That girl is still inside me. So I want to share more about that. And I'm going to start with a quote and then we'll get going, of Lisa's, of course. And then we'll get going to get to know her even better. So this is a quote that says, trying to be someone you are not is futile and will only create huge amounts of inner conflict and chaos over time. So have the courage to walk your own path. Find your own voice. Create your own rhythm and do life your way. Makes me think of Frank Sinatra. And Lisa, oh my gosh, thank you for coming tonight and just being a part of this and really being a part of the change that you, and I'm going to say I, are in aligned with seeing that we want in the world today. So
you are very welcome. Thank you. I was laughing internally when you were talking about the normalcy and thinking, right before this, I was downstairs whipping up dinner really fast. My kid is sitting at the kitchen table doing her homework while I run up here to jump on, have this amazing conversation with you, and then back to it's bedtime. And that's what we do. That's what we do, right? We do our lives, and we wear many hats as women, many hats.
Many. And I love that. So I love the fact that you're sharing so authentically and so vulnerably, because really this is what we need to hear. I was sharing with you, my show is Feel Good About Money, and a lot of people aren't feeling good about money right now. and they're scared and they're feeling scarce and they're not sure what's happening and what's going on in the world. And so the reality is that we want to break through taboos. We want to, I'm going to say, shatter these myths and things that are coming, sayings or isms that are coming about, or maybe what we're seeing in the media today. And how do we break away from that? So I'm going to say, I really would love for you to share with maybe starting with your personal resilience story, and kind of relating to what's going on today and how'd you create that change? I would love, that shift for you and how you help others to do that, because I think it's vitally important today. And even if it just helps one person, we've made a difference in the world. And that difference is a ripple effect, unseen, and unimaginable and unstoppable. And so I'm excited about what you have to share.
So what's really cool about the question you just asked, Rita, is that the myth is super connected with the story. So I want to share the myth and then connect in the story. So the myth is, and this is a massive, massive myth, and I think it's so important that we really hear this, because it sets us up, particularly right now in the times that we are in, it sets us up to feel inadequate when we believe this myth. It sets us up to feel not good enough, like we're doing something wrong, like we're crazy, like we're, it really sets us up. And the myth is this: regulation, or the ability to manage yourself, regulation does not mean calm. So it's an absolute myth, and I can explain why it's a myth. But understanding this has also been one of the keys to my success, and also been one of the pieces that I try to educate people with so much in the world. So big picture, this idea that, oh gosh, I'm overwhelmed, I'm stressed, I'm frazzled, I can't pull it together, I should get calm. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. Especially right now with everything going on. And so what I hear so often is, gosh, I can't figure out how to get calm, right? I can't figure out how to center myself. I can't stop this feeling of anxiety in me. I can't stop these feelings of overwhelm or anger or sadness or whatever it is. And I should just be calm. So it's a myth. No, you shouldn't just be calm. No, you shouldn't be calm. Your brain isn't designed to be calm right now. Our brains are designed, we're perceiving challenges. Our brains are designed to do something about it. So I want to finish out the myth, and then I want to add on to the story here, because it's so important. It's not about being calm. It's about being connected, ultimately. That's what regulation really means. What it means is that when we are feeling overwhelmed or sad or have anxiety, it's about how do we stay connected to ourselves while we're having that experience. It's not about avoiding it. It's not about making it go away. It's not about trying to change it. It's about, how can I stay connected to myself in the midst of my anxiety, in the midst of my overwhelm? Because that's where our power is. Our power is not in avoiding. Our power is not in trying to make it go away. Our power is in, you know what? I can be in this. I can be with myself in this. Feel it, breathe it, name it, be connected to myself in it. That's where we actually harness our strength and our power. I feel like I've got to take a deep breath on that. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's a myth and a fantasy right now that somehow we're going to walk through the world right now just feeling like we have all our stuff together and just feeling like, yeah, I just feel calm. No, you're not. Your brain's not going to let you do that, because your brain's constantly perceiving challenges right now. So can we just be real and have a realistic expectation for ourselves, which is, can I just work to stay connected to myself in this? Not put ourselves at a standard that's unattainable by saying somehow I've got to be calm about this. Yeah. So that leads to the story. So I'm a brain nerd. I love the brain. I love the brain. I love the brain. I love neuroscience. I love understanding how the body works. It's fascinating to me. And that comes out of my love for relationship, Rita. I love relationship.
Yeah.
Right? I love relationship. I love what happens between people. And that's any kind of a relationship. I'm just so intrigued by what happens, when we're with someone. And I'm intrigued about what's happening in my brain and what's happening in your brain and what's happening between us. And it's
Yeah,
super fascinating to me.
it is.
I always wonder, so I'm a twin. And I wonder if part of my curiosity for that, it comes from being a twin. I don't really know, but I came into the world with someone. I came into the world doing relationships, sort of, doing this dance with someone from day one. For whatever reason, I'm so curious about it. And as I started to learn and study, what I realized is there were some really key pieces that were really misunderstood, and some really key pieces that, talk about breaking myths, right? There were myths out there about human behavior, about child psychology, about all these different things. And I went, well, I want to be the one to change that. I want to contribute. Why not me? I see something. I am studying something that's not being studied. Why can't I be the one to apply it into the field? And that's the play therapy. So I've actually created a model of therapy for working with primarily children, although the model applies to adults as well. It's a known model in the field. I've also created a global institute around it. So I train clinicians and teachers and parents and educators on how to understand this relationship stuff,
Yeah.
and how to help kids heal ultimately, and how to help ourselves heal in the process. But one of the learnings from day one is this idea that regulation does not mean calm. That the name of the game is how do we stay connected to ourselves, and in so many ways, that's such a core piece of what I teach and what I want to offer people is how do you stay here?
Yeah, I absolutely love that because I think it takes away that I should be calm.
Mm-hmm.
So, like the other morning when I woke up and I
Mm-hmm.
was doing some of those I shoulds in my head, right? Like I've done my gratitudes. If I'm grateful, then why do I still feel like I'm a grump?
Right. I should feel grateful because I just did my gratitudes.
Just did my gratitudes. If I wrote, I am bold, beautiful, strong, courageous, confident, and so on and so forth, why wasn't I feeling that way?
Totally.
Right?
Exactly.
And so I'm going to say I've been blessed, with hearing you and learning your lessons. And I thought when I did those things, and I love neuroscience too, I think it is the most fascinating thing of how we as a society, and it starts somewhere, like with someone like you and someone like me that studies other people who teach this, to understand how we're hardwired, and connected, like you said, to ourselves. And so I thought, you know what, this had nothing to do with anybody else. There was nobody around, thank God.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure my family appreciated that being around when I was a grump. And I thought to myself, well, what could I do?
Mm-hmm.
So when we are feeling like that,
Mm-hmm.
what are things, like some simple things? I'll, I'll share, you could share my favorite, but
I'm like, you left everyone on a cliffhanger.
oh, I'm teasing you guys mercilessly tonight because it is, you know what? It's such a small, simple thing
Mm-hmm.
that never would I have imagined.
Mm-hmm.
And hearing you the first time, I probably could have gone like, really? I don't want to do that. And no. And oh, I feel like this, and I just thought, you know what? The one cool thing I'm all about is I have a 5-point focus for things. And so the first one is to explore, and that is to be curious,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep.
Be aware. So the first thing I'm going to say, I was proud of myself for being aware that I was a grump.
That's fun.
Point one. And as a little girl, I felt like, and if I think about the little girl in me, well, I'm proud of myself for at least being aware.
Uh-huh.
That was like a little mini step. And then I thought, but that definitely wasn't enough. So I was like, I need some help here. So how do I do this? Because I can't just call Lisa at every hour of the day. And it was quite early in the morning, mind you. So I wouldn't have ever called you at that hour. But I'm going to have you, because you were the one who shared it with me and about the regulation and dysregulation,
Yeah.
and how that works and how that helps build towards our health,
Mm-hmm.
and including our wealth, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's make sure we tie that in here for sure.
Absolutely. Because I really have this belief, just like you had your calling, my calling was to educate people around money.
Mm-hmm.
And they might not think that this is a piece of it, but this is probably the biggest piece. And most financial professionals aren't doing that. So as a financial professional and consultant for many years now, it's a different approach, and most people aren't used to it.
Mm-hmm.
As long as they're ready or open to go down the course, or along the course with Mama Rita, as they feel comfortable, I'm helping them to grow and expand in that area, as long as they're open to exploring with me. So that's one point. So let's explore together and have you share about this. I'm going to, it may seem magical to some people, mystical,
or just weird.
That's good. I like that. Just weird.
Well, so I think this is great. So I'll explain. I'll do a little. Let's talk about our nervous systems a little bit. But to the point that you were saying, I mean, Warren Buffett said, "Don't expect to manage money unless you can manage your emotions." I mean, Warren Buffett said it. And so we're talking here about, being able to regulate ourselves when we're having different emotional responses. It goes hand in hand with making money. If I don't know how to regulate my own psychology as I'm trying to build wealth, and as I feel like I'm getting nervous, or I feel, scared that I'm gonna lose money, or I feel angry that this happened with my money, or whatever it is, the stock market crashes, or if I can't regulate myself, I won't stay steady, and I won't slowly build my wealth. This better than anyone, right? You'll end up having a really erratic way of attempting to build wealth, and you'll gain it and you'll lose it, and you'll gain it and you'll lose it, and you'll gain it and you'll lose it, and you won't be able to hold on to it and build it. So absolutely what we're talking about is a huge part of wealth building. So here's the fun, brainy stuff. So our autonomic nervous system has two sides to it. So we have what's called your sympathetic side, which is responsible for your fight or flight. I think a lot of people have heard about fight or flight before. And then you have another side of your system called the parasympathetic. And the parasympathetic is designed to slow you down. But what's really interesting is you actually can slow down for two reasons. One is if you are under a lot of stress, you're feeling overwhelmed, you have a challenge in front of you, it feels like it's too much, you'll actually slow down, but you will slow down to withdraw and go into disconnect and to immobilize. So it's like a slow down to go into like a protection response. Mm-hmm. Opposite from sympathetic, which is the fight or flight. So once again, you experience a challenge, some things happen, and you rev up to do something, right? So we have the side of us that revs up to take the challenge on, and then we have another side of us that says, well, that challenge is way too big, so I'm actually going to withdraw and shut down and immobilize from it. Two responses, both are healthy. They're so healthy. They're healthy, they're brilliant. It's how the body was designed. And part of what we need to recognize right now in COVID is that we're here. We're here. Sometimes we're in sympathetic. Sometimes we're in the parasympathetic withdrawal. Sometimes we flip back and forth. right?
That would be me.
I'm sometimes in the morning we're one, and by afternoon we're the other, or however it goes. But just for us to stop and go, wait a second. So if I'm revving up and I'm feeling anxious, overwhelmed, even aggressive, if I'm feeling irritable, yeah, that's a sign that there's a challenge going on and that a part of you is trying to do something about it. That's what that means from a basic biological perspective. Or if you're like, I can't get out of bed today, I think I'm just going to lay here and pull the sheets over my head, or I'm starting to numb out, or I just feel like I need to withdraw. I feel so overwhelmed. I can't even get the words out. I'm so shut down. It just means that it's gotten too much and it's too big, right? So those are our responses. Those are going to happen whether we like it or not, whenever we perceive a threat or a challenge in our environment. And as I mentioned, there's a lot of that going on. But we have this other part of our nervous system. It's the other part of why we would slow down. And it's called your ventral vagus response. It's part of your ventral vagus nerve. It's the part of our biology that makes us human. Right? It's the part that separates us out from most of the rest of the mammals. And it's the part of us that gives us access to be able to regulate and govern this system that I just described, right? So when we talk about regulating or management of the system, the reason why it's a myth to be calm is because we're activated, right? We're activated, and to go from activation to just, I feel nothing, I'm calm, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work that way. But think of it like this. All right, we turn the news on, if you dare. You turn the news on, right? As you're watching the news, you start to feel something, right? And let's say that you start to feel a bit irritable, you start to feel agitated, right? Your sympathetic system is kicking in, okay? The goal here is, how do we activate our ventral vagus response? That's the goal here. Because activating our ventral vagus response connects us to ourself and gets us into the prefrontal cortex of our brain so that we can begin to manage our response. It's the thing that allows us to respond instead of react. It allows us to continue to think clearly about what's happening, to be rational, to be able to thoughtfully look at a situation, which is different than just reacting. So I like to tell people that the goal is to be in it and not in it simultaneously. Mm-hmm. So I feel all this dysregulation, I feel this activation. All right, I'm in it. How do I simultaneously activate my ventral vagus nerve so that there's a part of me that's not in it? There's a part of me that's almost like, okay, I can be a witness to what's going on. I'm connected to myself. I'm not getting lost in this. I'm not being swept up in it. I can take a breath. I can still notice my feet on the ground. I can notice that I'm irritated. I can notice that I'm agitated, but I'm not the irritation or the agitation. It is not bigger than me. I am still bigger than it. So there's all these fun things we can do to activate the ventral vagus nerve. And this is what Rita was referring to, okay? Some of them we naturally already do. So you might have had a moment when you felt overwhelmed and you naturally went like this. Oh, right? And you're actually putting pressure here. Yep. This actually activates your ventral vagus nerve.
Oh, wow.
And we go, oh my gosh, right? Another one that we naturally do when we're stressed, we go, oh my goodness gracious, right? This is a natural response. Your vagus nerve actually runs up. It's the longest nerve in your body. It's called the wandering nerve because it's so big, but part of it branches off on the sides of your neck. So we have this natural instinct to rub the side of our neck, which is naturally activating the ventral vagus nerve, and you get to grab hold of yourself, take a deep breath, and stay connected to yourself.
Yes.
Naturally, right? These amazing things that we do. Deep breaths. So really deep breaths activate our ventral vagus response. Other things that activate it, the cold. So we'll start with, there is cold water in this cup. So sipping cold water activates the ventral vagus nerve. Splashing cold water on your face. So many of us have done that before. There's a reason why I think in our psychology, when someone's like really overwhelmed, we go, cool off, cool off. They don't really know what they're saying is, go activate your ventral vagus nerve. Please go activate your ventral vagus nerve. And then the other one, which someone will say is like, would you go take a cold shower? And that's the one that I taught Rita. So at the end of your showers, for like the last minute of your shower, if you can take your shower and turn it on as cool or as cold as you can tolerate it, you're not putting your body into a stress response. The cold water actually wakes up your ventral vagus nerve and it hits reset on your nervous system. That's what it does. It hits reset.
My favorite.
My favorite too. I do it every single morning in the shower. It's how I start my day, by hitting reset on my nervous system to get my system in line. Yoga, meditation, exercise, taking walks, these things also activate the ventral vagus nerve. But if we can keep a couple in mind, like, what's your go-to? If you're feeling overwhelmed, can you go over to the kitchen sink and splash some water on your face? Can you go, drink some cold water out of the refrigerator? Can you stand there for a minute and just take a couple deep breaths? And again, the goal is not to all of a sudden calm down. The goal is simply, okay, how do I connect to myself right now so I don't lose myself? How do I stay connected to myself in the midst of whatever it is that I'm experiencing right now? Because again, that is where you have your most power.
Love it. I mean, there's so many points that you were talking about. I remember when I had cancer and I was diagnosed, and one of the things that happened with my spouse that I was not prepared for was that slow down, shut down, disconnect. I thought I felt abandoned. That was the feeling that I felt. I didn't understand what he was going through. I just knew he wasn't showing up for me. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't because he didn't want to and he wasn't a good guy. I learned after, although it took some learning and maybe some arguing and maybe a lot of temper tantrums and how dare yous and all that kind of stuff that comes with it, because I didn't understand and he didn't understand. And then I heard from a lot of other women that had cancer at the time going, yep, my husband abandoned me too. And we all felt this abandonment because his response, and I just found it very common amongst men to be able to do that because they didn't know what else to do. Mm-hmm. Typically, if I have enough strength, I didn't at that time. Mine was to rev up, to get into the work, focus on something else. And even now, before I go into the focus of myself, then I either do the shower or I have a couple of dumbbells and I do some weights, because then it just builds up that energy. And I always have a glass of cool or cold water next to me. But I didn't know all these things before. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say it created so much distress and strife in our family. Mm-hmm. And now, just maybe a few years later, or less than a few years later, but learning these systems, it's this literally feels like this switch. And I was telling you, I heard Tony Robbins talking about jumping in the freezing lake every morning. Well, we don't have to jump in the freezing lake. But I know that when I do my showers, some mornings I can tolerate more than others. And so I do what I can tolerate. I make it as cold, cold, cold as I can until I feel literally like I feel like a light switch got turned on. And I feel this flood of energy. And I literally almost feel this emotion of really good emotions. And one of the things that if I close my eyes is when I was a kid, I used to love to jump in the swimming pool. And I'm one of those kids that, I learned that if you jump in the deep end so that it gets over your head first and then it regulates you right away all together.
Mhm.
And so every time I take the shower, I feel like the kid jumping in the pool.
It's great.
So it rejuvenates me on top of it or into the ocean. I love jumping into the ocean. I know that especially in the Pacific Ocean, you got to run and you got to jump in because otherwise it takes you an hour or half an hour just to get to your waist in. But when you do that, like every time I go to the beach, I have to at least go jump in and do that. And I'm going to say it's almost like addicting for me because I'm feeling a certain feeling and it literally just, it's as if it washes it and erases it away, which is super awesome because nothing was really going wrong at the time. It was just a feeling that I was feeling from, I think, and it could be what's going on in the environment. I'm going to say, I realized that one of the things that was going on, I think it was Monday morning, what it was the week prior. And I had a friend who lost both their parents in one day due to COVID. I had a friend die. I had another friend whose best friend died. And it wasn't until I was talking to somebody that I realized they're like, you're carrying that all with you and you just keep on going. And I just had never acknowledged it, but it did help me get through like the regulation of what was going on. Because when you're feeling those feelings, right, there's different neurotransmitters firing. And so what was happening, there was so many of them. And then you listen to the news. And then on top of it, the one that was just really hard was a friend of mine's son was beaten. He was taking photos at a protest for documentary. And someone else videoed how he was surrounded and then being beaten by a group. And it was just like, why are all these things happening in the world? Now, there's not a whole lot I can do about it. I can do a lot when I'm regulated. I don't need to be calm to be regulated, but I can continue like my personal quest of showing up. Like when I was talking to someone to say, hey, they were talking about the news and I said, that's all well and great. But what's important to me right now and that I need to focus on and feel good is my health, my family, take care of this circle, take care of my next circle of my community, of my clients, of my friends, and not get caught up with what's going on because we don't know what's reality. I just know what's my reality in my world right now. And how do I regulate it? I think that it's so important that I think I would like to really take a moment, Lisa, and like we've been talking about this for almost 40 minutes, right? So I'd love to take a moment, even just have you talk us through either the hand on the head, because I've been in groups where I've watched people feel transformed just from that one. And I'd like to engage our audience. I'm going to be blasting this out in replays to different audiences so that they can rewatch this and maybe share that one that they can do. Or what can they do? Like, we're on Zoom a lot. I remember you mentioning some tips, I think, with how we can soothe ourselves if we're starting to feel anxious on Zoom. I know a lot of people are having to do that, and it's a really different world for them. And I'm going to say, even though it's not a really different world for me, every time I show up, I have this little bit of, I'm going to call it excitement and butterflies. I like to relabel it, but sometimes it's angst. It's just plain angst. And I don't know why.
So Rita, it was interesting. Just a couple minutes ago, before you even said that, I was having this thought of let's actually bring this into real life right now. And so as women, right? So how can we support each other right now as women? So I want I want to talk us through a couple different pieces. So, you know, we're sitting over here, we're women, we're having this conversation. So Rita, as you were sharing these, as women, we're feeling it, right? So we just felt everything that Rita just shared, where she was talking about the different losses. And you said, Rita, at the very beginning that it's really important right now to have compassion and to have empathy. We can't have compassion and empathy unless we're connected to ourselves. Mm-hmm. You can't do that. So the first is, if we're going to practice this, is to recognize that we are impacted by Rita's story. Okay, we're impacted. Right? So as you shared, we all felt something in our bodies. We became activated with you, and that's a normal response. So women, as we are listening to each other's stories, as we're hearing what's happening in the news, as we're listening to our kids or seeing our kids in distress, as we're seeing partners and spouses in distress, can we stop, first of all, and just feel? And just acknowledge impact in our own system first, right? That's step one. And that's the I feel right now impact from what I'm experiencing with you is the message. And then the next part of it is don't run away from that. The moment we run away from it, we can no longer be available to ourselves, and we can no longer be available to other people. And so if I take a deep breath, and women, let's take a deep breath, right? Take a deep breath as we feel Rita's story, or as we think about other stories that we've heard, or we think about what's gone on in the world, and we take a breath and we feel it, we feel our activation, so we're in it. So notice you're not calm. You may seem calm on the outside, but notice deep inside, it's not a calm. And that's what I'm talking about, that there's an activation inside. And so now the next part of it is, what can we do to be connected to ourselves while we're activated? So I want everyone to take a couple really deep breaths. And I'd like everyone to choose either the hand on your forehead or the hands on the side of your neck, whichever one you feel more drawn to. That's the one that I'm feeling really drawn to as well. And just notice in both options that your hand is touching your head, or your hand is touching the side of your neck. And just feel what it feels like for you to hold yourself. Notice what it feels like to connect to yourself while you're feeling activated. Take another couple deep breaths. And the message here isn't so much, okay, now I got to get calm. The message in this moment is to yourself, I'm here with you. That's what you're saying to yourself. I'm here. I'm here. Take another couple deep breaths. I'm following the urge of my body, and my body would like me now to move to the side of my neck. Mm-hmm. So follow whatever urge you feel. Trust your body. Yep. And again, just breathe. I'm here. I'm connected. I'm feeling stuff, but I'm here. This is where we have our power, ladies. This is where our strength is. Because it's from this place that now we get to open our hearts to the people around us. It's from this place, now that I've touched in on my own activation and I've centered myself, it's now this place with an open heart where I can say, Rita, wow, what a hard week. Wow, what a hard week. And it's here where we get to have impact, because we're genuinely acknowledging, and we're acknowledging it within ourselves, and we're acknowledging it with other. Really powerful stuff.
Yep. Super powerful, super amazing. Mm-hmm. And that's, I'm going to say, when I look at my 5-point focus, we just hit on expanding, right? And we hit on engaging, Actually, we hit on all five: exploring, being curious, expanding, focus, and growing, engaging, where we start to take action and create positive energy, create, connect with that positive energy. And then it's that shift. It's that shift so that we can feel accelerated, connected. I'm going to say even loved. Love
Exactly.
for the moment that we just had self care for ourselves.
Exactly.
And then we get to enjoy, right? We get to enjoy being empowered that with just simple things, just as you shared, we can create that shift. And literally, it took us just a
Absolutely.
few moments to really make a big difference in in our day.
It's also been my experience that coming back to this place, and I'm just going to keep reiterating it, not for the purpose of calming down, for the purpose of connecting, where my strength and my power and my realness and my authenticity is, that this is where an authentic sense of deserve starts to develop. It's not a fake deserve. It's not a I think I deserve. It's a it's an actual felt sense of, look, I deserve. And for me, this is where you actually start to get to create wealth, because the wealth is a reflection of our own inner wealth first.
Hmm. That is so super true. And I'm going to say it goes back. One of my favorite all time, I'm going to call him a philosopher, is Jim Rohn.
Mhm.
He shifted everything. I mean, for me personally, when we talk about 5 years ago, when I started on this journey of learning and expanding, I was having so much anxiety and angst. And I wish you were in my life at that point, because it would have probably shifted everything exponentially. Actually, I know it would have shifted everything exponentially faster, because I didn't have the exercises where I could tangibly connect. It was more of, I had to rework the words that were in my head, because in between this headspace were all these shoulds and woulds and blame and shame and just angst and depression and highs and lows. And if I could have charged rent to all the voices that kept on coming up, I would already be a millionaire for every time I put my head down and they showed up and then woke me up in the middle of the night or woke me up in the morning. And it took me literally a year of reprogramming. I was listening to one thing over and over again. I tell people I slept with Jim Rohn, and my husband, and this was while he was alive, of course. And my husband was totally okay with it. because changing and rewiring the firing of those, while it took a longer time, it took about a year and a half before I realized I didn't have to keep putting the earbuds in. And it was just one day I was like, wait, I'm not having to do this every day. And it got better and better. And I'm going to say the days that I experienced those were like Monday morning. And I just woke up and I didn't realize the week that I went through. Right. I just wasn't aware of how much of a toll all those messages took on me. But once they were layered and it was one on top of the other, which is what everybody's experiencing, the massive amount of loss in so many ways. And as a society and a culture, we're all going through grief together. But we can all be empowered together. Right? I put up that quote of refilling that authentic you, connecting that authentic you. I call it reviving that authentic you, because I'm going to say that person, I love the fact of thinking of myself as a child, in the sense of, it's that piece of me that's invigorated and energized. And that's like, have you ever been in the room with kids that are just giggling and it's contagious? So now connect that to things that we can do. Because it was so funny that at the same time that you were saying
We were
from
like,
the
move.
and I needed the neck thing, and I was like, oh my God, okay. And as soon as I did this, I had a literal relief.
Mhm.
So, I'm going to say out there, pick one or pick a couple. Try a few of the things that Lisa has shared with us today, because honestly, they're priceless. I mean, one of the things, I'm going to put her website up. I've been popping up little nuggets, or trying to pop up nuggets of, I heard things, right, that Lisa said, but check out her website. You have something new coming up, which I'm absolutely excited about. And, I'm just going to say, I can't promote Lisa enough, because she's the real deal. How she shows up, she's just that authentic person. And I just feel like there's a sense of grace and peace when she's in the room. And I love surrounding myself with people like that, because she's created an environment where we can now nurture ourselves and nourish ourselves by being connected with ourselves. I'm totally honored. So tell us a little bit about what's coming up in your new course. I'm going to put this on here just so
Yeah.
we can share. It's a business play therapy. Oops, typos.
Well, I mean, we're talking about expansion and creation and all of these things, and yeah, the next thing that my heart is saying it's time for, Lisa. I built my first business back in 2003. Was as one of 6 businesses that I've built. Very much am an entrepreneur, and I thought, how come I'm not teaching other people how to build their businesses? I've got this knowledge base. Why am I not offering it out there? And so I decided I'm going to launch what I'm calling the business of play therapy. It's being announced within the play therapy community, but it's a business course for anyone, really. And it's really not just the nuts and bolts behind, okay, here are the things that are essential to build a business or launch a dream, or it's not just a business. It could be like create a product, you write a book. It could just be anything in the business world. But I also teach the psychology behind it, and the psychology, but like, why would you do that? And and how do entrepreneurs think, and all of that. So I weave together the psychology and the to-dos. Just another expression of who I am that I want to put out into the world.
So you can also find Lisa at Synergetic Play Therapy. And again, like I said, when you say entrepreneurs and business owners, it's that I didn't used to think I was creative, but it's a very creative mindset of people. And then the other thing is, as entrepreneurs and business owners, they also have families. So a lot of times they have a business, they're a business owner. And not only do they have their personal families, especially for women, where it gets challenging and tricky, you have your personal family, but then you have your business family, right? And I'm going to say, for the most part, we want to take care of everyone, right? We want to love on them. We want to nurture them. We want to help grow them. We want to guide them on the same paths. I call it, we want to guide them on the highway to prosperity, right? So that we can all flourish, right? And as we get educated, my favorite quote is, an educated society is an elevated society. So I know today, with what Lisa shared, you just elevated society like 10x, tenfold, and maybe more. Because once you reach each individual, and then their families, and then their business families, and it just goes on and on and on. And as we elevate, we all get to live these amazing lives together. And I really believe, this is my firm belief, and I'm going to say, and I'm sticking to it. We're all going through what we're going through to now become self-aware, connect with ourselves, create a new lives that we're more highly connected, more highly elevated, and we are going to be experiencing the most wonderful, expansive, loving world we've ever been in, because we are going through this together. And it takes time to transition to that transformation. And I can't think of a better way than getting connected with you, Lisa.
Well, here's a really cool, like, final thought.
Okay.
So we're talking about being of influence, and we're talking about, just helping as women, helping create and support the growth that you're talking about. When you take the time to do what we just did, and someone watches you do it, they learn from watching.
Mhm.
And so if we are in the middle, let's get really practical. You're in your home. It's really stressful in your kitchen, cooking dinner, and you're overwhelmed, and you pause and you model rather than saying, "Can everybody be quiet? Mom's cooking," or whatever it is, right? Not to say that there's not a time and a place for that. And, right? We got to normalize, right?
Right.
It happens. But there are moments when you can stop and take a deep breath and connect to yourself in the midst of that. And all your kids turn around and they're like, "What is mom doing right now? Why is mom splashing cold water on her face? Why is mom standing there taking some deep breaths? Why is mom just going, I'm going to take some deep breaths right now because I'm feeling overwhelmed?" You're actually modeling to your kids. And over time, your kids will turn around and do it for themselves. You're modeling to your friends. You're modeling to, if you're in a business, you're modeling to your business partners. I do this when I'm running my business meetings. I'm regulating myself in front of my team, and my team follows suit. But we can be massive change agents,
Yes.
partly by just taking care of ourselves and having people watch us take care of ourselves. Sometimes we get so focused on, I've got to do something to be a change agent. What if we have to be something to be a change agent? And then what do we need to do in order to be and be connected? Because it's a powerful, powerful place to reside from.
I absolutely love that, and I 100% agree, because one of the things that I think about is it just like even in doing the exercise with you today is I felt this energy shift,
Mhm.
right? And yes, I get that sometimes. Yes, I'm going to say I used to be the screaming mom, especially when my kids were small.
Sure.
Totally admitted. The typical Italian mom, not
Yep.
quite as much as chasing with the Italian wooden spoon, but there might have been days when they were young just to show them, to scare them, right?
Mhm.
But what energy did I create?
Mhm.
I had angst and I created more angst in the room. So vibrationally, I just sent off a trigger that triggers somebody else. So sometimes when you see somebody else being triggered, I've noticed that the one thing that I do is I take a moment, like a breath, right? Even internally to say, okay, they're triggered.
Mhm.
So now how can Rita show up
Mhm.
to kind of bring the calm in, the regulation in,
Mhm.
and what can I model in, like, maybe of words
Exactly.
of empathy, and say, hey, and that's why sometimes I know we can't really touch people, but we can reach out to them. And like you said, we can model that, I'm feeling you, right?
Exactly.
I'm feeling your energy and I
Exactly.
want to be here to support you. And if you let me know how, sometimes they may not know how,
Mhm.
but I'm here no matter what's going on, because I get to speak with a lot of people around money.
Mhm.
And the other day I had somebody who almost was shaking in their boots
Mhm.
because they had a sense and a feeling of something was not structured correctly.
Mhm.
We looked into it and their intuition was actually correct. But the reality is it was something that could be fixed. So what I told her is, you're fearing right now the unknown.
Mhm.
So we don't know the truth right now. So why don't we, and I actually said, why don't we just take a moment and take a step back?
Mhm.
And I want you to breathe. And I just want you to relax a moment. And it's all because, honestly, I'm modeling what you've taught, right? So I love being the A+ student. Not always, but I like to do my best. I'm not even going to say try. I don't want you out there trying, people. I want you out there being your best. And sometimes your best is like just the awareness.
Yeah. Can I share another little story here?
Yeah.
As we're talking about the significance of modeling, and so I'll share this just in relationship with me and my own child. So my daughter's about to turn 15. So this was a year and a half ago. My mom passed away,
Mhm.
And I've been, doing my best to model this to her. Sometimes I'm really successful at it. And sometimes I'm like, Lisa, did you forget everything that you've ever taught? Like, what are you doing? Right? Because I'm human. I have our moments.
Absolutely.
And she has seen me attempt to model connecting to myself over and over. So she came downstairs, and I was sitting on the couch, and I was just crying, right? Sitting on the couch, I was just crying. And she came, and there was the coffee table in front of us, and I'm on the couch, and she sits down on the other side of the coffee table. So she's, what is that? She's 13 at that point. And she just looks at me, and she takes a deep breath, and she just starts rocking back and forth like this,
Mhm.
just rocking back and forth, which, by the way, is another way you can stimulate your ventral vagus nerve, is to rock. So she's rocking back and forth. And I looked at her, and she looked at me, and she said, Mom, you keep crying. I'm going to sit here and help you breathe.
Mm. So beautiful.
And that's, I think, what we're talking about, right? Is our ability as women to support women being connected. So she allowed herself to connect to herself, to hold space. And then she allowed me to stay connected to myself.
Yep.
And we both were empowered in the moment as a result. So even kids can do it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, I can't think of a better way to end today's show. Lisa, thank you. Everyone, thank you for staying tuned in. And until our next time, we'll see you in a couple of weeks to break through the taboo talks. We're going to learn around emotional intelligence and money with Michaela Passetti. And again, Lisa, thank you. Thank you. Priceless tips tonight.
You're
And I
welcome.
wish you an abundant of blessings, my friend.
Everyone, enjoy your cold showers.
Yeah, go do your cold showers.
Go jump in
Bye.
the cold shower.
Ciao for now.